Hey Chooms, thanks for tuning in. Before we get started, there's two things that I want to tell you. The first is that we have a Discord server, that there is Instagram, and that anytime you guys interact with me through the comments, through the community tab, which I was able to finally get after a year of doing this, with the October video, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for that. But anytime I have the opportunity to interact with you guys, not as an audience, but as a community, people who enjoy the same things I do, that really, really means a lot to me, and it really goes a long way to brighten my day. The second thing I wanted to mention is that today's video is going to be a little different than my previous videos. This is strictly a lore video, and it is my interpretation, my take, and it's what I believed happened the night that Adam Smasher was turned into a cyborg. If you don't know who Adam Smasher is, I plan on delving into it more in the future. However, Adam Smasher is a cyborg. He is a scary cyborg, and he works for a company called Arasaka. And I will be getting into this more and more if you guys enjoy these videos, these lore videos that I'll be posting once in a while. So please let me know what you think of this in the comments. So with that out of the way, let's get into it.
A deafening barrage of bullets and explosions marked a gig gone wrong. Scrambling, the gunboy crew headed for the extraction point in the heart of the combat zone. Ducking into and out of darkened alleyways, across streets, and out of the more open areas, they tried to follow the escape route they'd planned weeks before, until they met their once and present adversaries. They were trapped. Gunfire ensued once more as the alley lit up, bullets lodging into flesh and brick alike. They knew they had to get out of the standoff, but they were tired from running. Using whatever they could find for cover, they took a breath to reload and rethink their egress. "Adam, get down!" one of them barked, as red-hot lead whizzed over and around various blockades, and yanked down on the vest that was meant to separate those same fragments of metal and death from the flesh beneath. A bullet lodged itself in Smasher's arm, and he was pulled down. The mercenary grit his teeth, with all the grace and subtlety of a butcher on juice. He put his firearms down to take out the Bowie knife he kept on his thigh, and used it to prag the fragments out of his bicep. "Shut it, gaunt brain." Smasher retorted as he threw the bullet away, using his pants leg to wipe the blood off the blade and put it away. Ammunition was running low, and it was only a matter of time before their foes would whittle it down to nothing. Smasher got up, with the sound of an NYPD Aerodyne reverberating through the cavernous surroundings, and screamed as he started to run headlong into the oncoming fire. The adversarial crew at the opening of the end of the alleyway started to laugh as one of their numbers rounded the corner, something large and glimmering in their hands. Smasher started to feel his heart beat harder and louder, pounding against the back of his throat as he roared. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the combat stim, raising it over his head and down into his neck. The rush of adrenaline seemed to rip the fatigue out of his body and carried him forward like some sort of specter. The shimmering cylinder the ganger held was brought up to his shoulder, and the crew, still laughing at the futile attempt, covered their ears as an entirely different roar was heard as new ordnance was loosed from its housing, and the rocket, slowing down time it seemed, was set on its heading straight into Smasher's gut. Providing no protection, the flak jacket crumpled against the force of the oncoming object. Smasher was sent back into a nearby dumpster where the explosives seemed to have fizzled out. White-hot pain shot through his entire being as the canister fell between his legs, and his lungs burned to take in as much air as they could. The opposing crew seemed crestfallen, as they were hoping they'd get to see gore and viscera decorate the gunboys before moving in and finishing them off. Struggling to his feet, Smasher wheezed and coughed up blood, the combat stem still pushing him forward. He took a few steps before looking and glaring at his targets. He picked up the canister that hit him just moments before, and took a few more steps as he started to gain momentum, his gait transitioning into a shuffle, then a walk, a stride, and then it happened. As he broke into a run, the rocket he carried collided with the rifle he had stowed on his back. A freak accident on an apparent dud, which had set off an explosion in his hand. The combination of fire and shrapnel rippled through, starting in his arm and leg, radiating outward and sending him into the dirt-crusted wall, other bits of his body in directions unknown. By the time he'd slammed into the side of the building, all that remained was little more than a lump of meat, barely clinging to life as the visible heart slowed with nothing left to pump. The crew scrambling, they sought to stuff what they could into a backpack and made contact with their contractor to notify him that the mission failed. As they screamed into the agent, Smasher drifted from consciousness. He felt the weight of his eyelids drag themselves across his eyes, as they seemed to want to clam shut, locking them away for the last time. However, the combat stim was still swirling in his brain, the chemicals keeping his neurons alive, and he seemed to will himself to stay conscious, to stay alive. But then his eyes fluttered further, like the wings of a moth under a street lamp, and he finally drifted off.